welcome to a quick live. I want to talk about the sober summer since it's Memorial Day, and I know that can be a really scary time in the beginning of sobriety, so I am here to answer all of your questions for as long as you have questions. So welcome everyone who's joining. If you have any questions about the sober summer, please put them in the question box so I can get to them. I have about 20-ish minutes to answer all of your questions. So the first one that I wanted to start with is, how do you respond to people who make your sobriety a really big deal or act surprised? And I think that basically anyone is going to act surprised when you stop drinking, because it's a big change and because drinking is so normal and everybody seems to do it, and a lot of people still have that black and white thinking where you're either a regular person or you're an alcoholic. So if someone decides to stop drinking, it is a surprise. I wouldn't let that bother you though. If they're shocked, they're not going to be shocked forever. I think the first 6 weeks for me was the hardest, and then people really stopped caring. And we expect people to care like way more than they actually do end up caring. So if people like question you about it, or, oh my God, you're still not drinking, that's one that I got a lot. Like, why are you still not drinking? I would just look at them and just say like, and eventually they get bored and they move on with their lives. So I wouldn't worry too much about that one. Welcome everyone that is joining. Please put your questions in the question box. So here's one. What is your favorite mocktail or AF drink? When I'm out, my go-to is typically a NA beer or just nothing. I sometimes do mocktails, but sometimes I don't really feel very safe because I've heard a lot of stories where it was actually a cocktail and not a mocktail. So usually I don't like to do those, just for my comfort level. But I like NA drinks because it says it on the bottle that it's non-alcoholic. So I know and I can trust it and I can feel comfortable with it. So I would just typically do an NA beer. And if you have any kind of drink in your hand, even if it's a soda water and lime, it helps you feel more comfortable than just having nothing. So that would be my go-to, either an NA beer or soda water with lime. It looks like any other kind of drink. But remember, people care a lot less than we expect them to. And whatever you do get for an NA drink, just make sure that you really check it, or have someone like taste test it or smell it, or you check the bottle. I was served a real beer actually on my birthday last year. It really sucked. It was a restaurant I went to all the time, and they brought me just the glass of beer, and I was like, okay, well, I've been here a lot, like, I guess it's okay, but it was actually a real beer. So now I never get one without requesting the bottle, and people are really good about it. I think they understand that. So whatever you do, just be really careful. I've heard the same kind of stories with mocktails, and the staff got confused and thought it was a cocktail. So whatever you get, just be super careful. If you're going to a barbecue, just bring your own. And if you get like Athletic Brewing, someone mentioned in the comments, that's an awesome one. Put it in a little koozie and no one knows what you're holding. You just think you're holding something just like them. So if you want to avoid the conversation, holding a drink can make you feel more comfortable. Welcome everybody. Hope you're having a great Memorial Day. So this is a good question. This goes along with what I was just talking about when I did get a real drink instead of an NA drink. I was really upset. It was my birthday, so it kind of like messed up my birthday. And I remember that I was afraid that like the pathways in my brain that I always talk about in my podcast, that keep us drinking, I was really worried that those would be like reactivated with the little bit of alcohol that I had and the 2 sips that I took. And I was really worried like that it would ignite cravings or that it would set me back. This actually just happened to someone in my Living a Sober Powered Life community too, and she was really alarmed. It's just freaky. It's really freaky when it happens. That's why I always like urge everyone, be careful when you order this stuff. But I woke up the next day and I was completely fine. So my brain didn't get reset. I didn't have cravings. The same thing with the person in my community. She didn't have cravings, but I know a lot of people get scared that they have to reset their time or they've lost everything because they accidentally were served a real drink. And that you don't have to worry about that because that was not your choice to do that. But it is very, very freaky, so I would avoid it as much as you possibly can, which is why I will just get soda water when I go out, or I will ask for them to bring me the bottle so that I can make sure that it's a non-alcoholic, and I don't get mocktails in most places unless it has its own name. Like I avoid like a fake mojito type situation, but if it has its own special name, I think that's easier for the bartender to get it right. So just use your judgment and be careful with NA drinks because they can unfortunately be the real thing. Welcome everybody who's joining. Let me see, I wrote a couple questions down too. So quitting when you are the only one that wants you to quit. This was my experience actually. I thought when I quit that everybody was gonna be like, thank goodness you finally stopped. Like, oh my gosh, you were so annoying with all your drinking every day. And no one thought I needed to quit, which was shocking because all the people that gave me trouble about it like witnessed some pretty serious stuff. And I was urged to moderate for a while, for about 6 weeks, and then people got the point. But a lot of people said, you know, why are you doing this? You weren't that bad. Why don't you just drink less? I don't understand why you can't just have one. And I took it as a compliment. I thought everybody was gonna think I was this like raging alcoholic when I quit. So the fact that they didn't think I had to quit at all, I took as a compliment. And it just shows how good at hiding it I was. So I kind of laughed it off. But I wouldn't worry if people don't want you to quit. If you want to quit, that's all you need. If you have the desire to not drink and blow up your life anymore, that's enough. Other people don't have to agree with you. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would also only tell people that you're comfortable with knowing. When I first quit, I had a really big pink cloud and I was like, everybody needs to know this. Like if they quit too, they're gonna feel so good. And I like made a bunch of posts on Facebook about it and nobody cared at all. And it just like, it shattered my tiny little newly sober heart. So I wouldn't recommend blasting your sobriety out there for the entire world. I would just tell the people that have to know, and everybody else, it's really not their business. You can say you're on a break, or you're not drinking right now, or you're not in the mood. Like not everybody in the whole world has to know what you're up to. So I hope that answers that question. Any other questions about the sober summer or anything else, put them in the box. Another one that I got was FOMO, so feeling like you're missing out. And I really felt that a lot. And if you listen to Friday's podcast episode, so my episode from a few days ago, it was all about 5 challenges that you might face in your first sober summer. And FOMO was one of them. So make sure you listen to that if you didn't. But I felt left out because I would see people drinking wine on their porch or I would walk by a restaurant and I would see people out there drinking, and I really romanticized alcohol a lot. So it made me feel sad and left out, and like I would never have fun ever again, and my life was gonna suck forever. And eventually I embraced the JOMO of it, the joy of missing out. You probably have too if you're considering quitting, but I've had a lot of really bad experiences drinking. I've done the romanticized drinking. I've had wine in Europe and Rome and like all of these great places on vacation, and it wasn't that good. And it was bad enough that I wanted to quit. So I think that we've all had some pretty bad experiences. And now I see it as JOMO, the joy of missing out. And if people want to invite me to their parties, what I learned in sobriety is that I don't have to go to everything. I didn't know that before. I thought that I had to go to everything, and I had to be this like perfect friend and this like perfect family member. And then when I got sober, I was like, wow, if I don't want to do something, like I don't have to do it. And it was so empowering to realize that. So I would say work on embracing your JOMO. And missing out sometimes is great, because parties are really just people standing around doing nothing, but having the same repetitive conversations about nothing. And then they get into drunk fights at the end of the night. So you're really not missing out on anything. And when you quit drinking, you can find some hobbies and find some things that do make you happy. So I would embrace your JOMO. So any questions, please leave them in my little question bubble. I'll answer a few more. So if I am new, what strategies do you recommend for going to a barbecue or party? I would say bring something for you to drink, even if it's water. It doesn't have to be like a non-alcoholic thing. Bring your own drinks and bring extra. Bring way more than you think you need, because sometimes in early sobriety, we like chug soda water like crazy people, and that used to help me. Like I would just consistently chug soda water and it would make me feel more relaxed. So bring way more drinks than you think you're going to need. I think that's my best tip. If you don't want anyone to question you about your drink, bring a koozie so they can't see what it is. My favorite strategy, if you're going out, if you're like at a party or something, then you ask the bartender to make you a mocktail. And then when people ask you what it is, you just say you asked the bartender to surprise you. So you have no idea what it is, and then they think you're cool. So I would make sure that you're very comfortable with your drink situation. You know exactly what you're going to drink. You have more than enough. And I would also advise you to have some friends or like a sober community like on call. Whenever I'm nervous about something, I let my sober friends know, hey, I'm going to this on this day. Can you just kind of like be around your phone in case I need to vent? And knowing that people are there that you can text, or if you're in a group that you can make a post and they'll be there for you, that is really comforting. Groups or friends are also really helpful, because then you feel kind of accountable to them, and you know that they know what you're up to, and you don't want to have to tell them that you had a drink or something. There's one in the comments, totally agree, bring your own car. I would do this for a wedding too, really anything. Bring your own car and make sure that you don't get boxed in by other cars, so that you can just leave. Like Irish goodbye, that's okay when you're sober too. It's when you just disappear. like when you've had enough and you just leave without saying goodbye to anyone. I do that all the time, so I love the Irish goodbye. So I would just try to visualize the day and think about what challenges you might face. Are there certain people that might be really annoying? Visualize how you're going to deal with them. And for answering the question, why aren't you drinking? Say as little as possible. So this is what I talked about in my podcast episode 2, episode 153 from Friday. So make sure you listen to that. But just say as little as possible, because the more information that you give people, the more solutions that they're going to want to provide. So if you say that you have to drive, all of a sudden they're trying to find someone that can drive you home or find you a room that you can stay in or suggest you get an Uber. Or if you use an excuse about medication, then they have this story about how they drank on medication and it wasn't a big deal. So I would just say as little as possible, like no thank you is plenty. And you don't have to totally agree with me. You can find what works for you. These are just my suggestions. Any other questions before I get off and let you guys enjoy your Memorial Day? So any questions, put them in the question box. I will address this comment. I really don't agree with being vague about what you are drinking or lying that the barman has made you a special drink. Own it. Be proud of having a non-alcoholic drink. The reaction will be positive. The reaction won't always be positive. And some people don't want to tell everybody that they're sober. And that's okay if you don't. Some people love to be sober. They're proud of it. They don't mind telling people that they quit drinking. Other people don't want to advertise it to everybody. So if you don't, then being vague about what you're drinking or not getting into it with people is good advice for you. I know that for me, I really didn't want people to know. It made me feel really uncomfortable, especially with coworkers. I wanted coworkers to have formed an opinion of me before they knew about my personal life. And it's also not everybody's business if you're sober or not. So I think everybody needs to find what works for them. Either you are proud of it and you own it and that's awesome, but if you feel uncomfortable and you don't want to get into it with people, that's okay too. I got a lot of criticism from the sober community that like I'm ashamed of being sober because I don't want everyone who's ever worked with me to know. And I don't think that just because you don't want to advertise it to the whole world means you're ashamed of your sobriety. There are lots of things in my personal life that I don't want to advertise to the entire world. So I think everyone needs to find what works for them. If you're not comfortable or you're worried that maybe you're not comfortable, then there are things that you can do to kind of keep it to yourself. And maybe you'll feel comfortable one day, maybe you never will. And either way, you need to find what works best for you. I love your podcast. I've been listening. Thank you. Thank you for listening. There's actually an episode up this morning. I don't normally do episodes on Mondays. So if you need a little 10-minute boost, there's an episode about drinking dreams. So I'm starting to take some more listener questions. And I got a question from someone that I've actually never addressed. It was about drinking dreams and like, what does it mean if you've never had one? So I thought that was interesting. So I made a little episode about it if you're interested in learning more. So this is the last call for questions. If you have any other questions, let me know. Anything else I can help you with today? I think those are all the ones that I got from my stories. So thank you guys. Thank you for joining. Thank you for taking time out of your Memorial Day to watch this live. If any other questions come up, I have a question box in my stories that you can leave them in. And make sure that you check out episode 153 of my podcast for more about the sober summer. And I hope that you guys have a great day.